Welcome to this month's episode of the World of Roofing podcast, hosted by John Kenny of Cottney Consulting and Andrew Rowley of roofmapping.com, where we will introduce you to a new roofing industry artisan from around the world.
All right, welcome back everybody to another episode of the World in Roofing. One of your co-hosts here, John Kenny with Cottney Consulting Group, and my other co-host over in the UK, Andrew Rowley from roofmapping.com. Andrew, how are you today?
I'm doing all right. It's pretty autumnal here at the moment. The weather's dropped quite significantly. It's quite cold and very wet. I got drenched on the roof earlier this morning, so yeah, not so good. But
I
no, I'm still
cannot say
happy.
we're cold and wet over here in Florida, so
Oh,
it's
okay, that's
still
all right.
hot and humid.
Guys, I'm gonna brag. It is beautiful in Indiana.
Ah,
You couldn't ask for better conditions. Last week was pretty cold, and then we got a little Indian summer going on
oh,
this
that's
week.
nice. Enjoy that.
That's
It's
perfect.
gonna be real nice. And we're putting
So
the first copper pans on, so it's just beautiful weather out here.
perfect.
Sorry,
So
you're plumbing
I'm
it.
going to take a quick moment to introduce our audience to Kurtis Hord. Kurtis, how are you doing? We already heard the weather's beautiful and you're in that good kind of spring, fall, summer mode, which is nothing better than that in the northern part of the country.
It's beautiful. Yeah, can't
Perfect.
complain. Hmm.
So, how about telling our audience a little bit here about yourself, what you do, and then we'll go into maybe why you got into the industry and what your passions are.
I'll do that backwards. I'll start with how I got into the industry. So I started as a 21-year-old kid, and I was a homeowner. I was actually one of those people that you hear about that benefited from those scam loans that they were giving out right before the housing crisis. So, I worked at a coffee shop, but they gave me a mortgage for a $100,000 house in
Hmm.
Kentucky. It was around 2004, 2005, which blew my mind. I couldn't believe it. But then as I got into, the pangs of home ownership and learned, wow, I really can't trust these contractors out here. I had people come over to give me estimates on roofing, and I had a unique condition because I got into an older Victorian house with a standing seam roof, box gutters, and an old slate roof. So my approach when dealing with that first was just to educate myself. And the more I learned, the more I realized, like, it looks like I'm not going to college after all. I'm going to end up being a contractor because I started working on the house and taught myself through that process. But so that's how I got into it. And it was from the get-go, it was always slate and copper. I didn't start out as a shingle roofer and then graduate into slate and copper. It was slate and copper only from the get-go. And that's, I guess, the one thing that made me a lot different than my peers in the roofing world is, I noticed that just there were a lot of differences culturally and the kind of clients that we uh, dealt with and their priorities and all that.
Okay.
So you got really, you are the living legend of trial by error. You fell into this industry by taking
Yeah.
care of your own residents, and so be it. You had some of the more difficult roof systems, as far as skill level goes on the residential world that you started out with.
Yeah. I mean, I got a lot of big quotes, and what I ended up doing was I took the thing apart and I did all the carpentry myself, just
Okay.
completely trial by ear. Like bought my first saw at Lowe's, bought my first set of tools, went and did it all on my own, put it all together, and then I hit a wall with the metal work because I realized, oh, I got to have all this equipment that's way out of my pay scale to have. So I hired someone to do the gutter work itself, and
Hmm.
they ended up offering me an apprenticeship to come
Oh,
work
well, okay.
with them. And they did primarily slate and copper in a Victorian historic district. So I worked for them for about a year, continued on my education, and then I went off on my own. And I did what was a little unique in the contracting world was we formed a co-op. So me and the four other guys that ran the roofing company were all equally vested partners. And then we would hire apprentices as our hourly laborers.
Oh,
But it was always towards the goal of educating them to become partners or journeymen at the very least. So a very simple 3-tier union structure. You have a conscript, a journeyman, and then a master as the 3 tiers you can attain in your journey through the trades.
So fast forward a little bit. So we got your training, you got into your own apprentice. Now you're moving into the co-op, doing the apprenticeship, journeyman, master roofer. Where are you at today?
So, and I'll rewind just a little bit so I can explain why I do what I do today. So the co-op company on paper was a very traditional roofing company, meaning we're tied to a location. It was Louisville, Kentucky. We're servicing clients in, like ambitiously a 50-mile range around the area. We're not trying to travel and go on the road and seek projects outside of that area. And what I found was as soon as you bring employees on and you sort of take that gamble, the first time you have a season without a fancy roof to do, you're having to sell yourself to do all sorts of other service work, repairs, even shingle roof stuff that we were just not versed in doing. And the way I looked at it was like, there's a whole field of competition of asphalt roofers that are going to do it way better than I could ever do it. My guys are specifically trained to do slate and copper, and that's what they eat and that's what they love. And they're not gonna perform well on other systems. Not that they couldn't, but that there would be a learning curve and there would be a buy-in to learn that system that I just wasn't willing to do. So I sold that entire company to them for $1, and I went completely solo and said, from now on, I want it to be my work only, my designs. I will travel to the project. I will live on site. Oh. And this is modeled on the 19th century, what's called Compagnon or journeyman program. This is what the German and French carpenters went through in the Middle Ages in order to learn their trade. They had to travel around, stay on location, and live with the work from beginning to end. Some call it a monastic lifestyle, but essentially the idea is you cut out all of the overhead and middlemen and you live on site with the work, and that's your only overhead in the whole project is your personal expenses and your quarter making cost, and then that's it. There's no commuting back and forth. There's no workers' comp policy to maintain. There's no overhead for a shop and a truck and a building and all that.
Oh, wow. Okay. So how long roughly does it take to do the roof? How long are you living on site?
Gotcha. So the one I'm doing right now, it's 18 squares of standing seam and then about 5 squares of really detailed slate work on a mansard going around curved dormers, all that. I'll be on site for 9 months, but I'll be operating for 5 months.
Wow. Okay.
So we're pausing in the winter.
Yep.
I'll stop in December and go to Chicago to do some indoor work.
Okay.
And come back to this region probably around March or April and start.
Right.
Do you ever have any help when you're doing this, or are you strictly solo?
So I do have laborers, and it's mostly for setup, material loading, stuff like that. Like I have a laborer on this project right now that's helping me tear off the old roof, set up scaffold, load all my materials. Once I get the materials loaded up and get everything staged, they go away and they come back for the teardown.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's just local walk-on laborer, basically employed through the homeowner.
How many projects do you do a year?
2 if I'm lucky.
Are they anywhere that they
anywhere in the United States that's if it's a reasonable location. I've been in some places like resort towns and places in the Bahamas where it wasn't just feasible for a laborer to live there, because you're looking at $3 to $4 grand a month in housing costs just to be in that location.
Yeah.
But for most locations, if you can find housing, like right now, I'm in a fifth wheel RV on a campsite, a mile from the job.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I ride my bike. I ride my bike to and from work every day.
Oh, okay.
Nice. Andrew, anything else?
Yeah, it's with the scaffolding because obviously every job that I see, well, in England, every roofing job you need scaffold, whether it's single
Yeah.
story or 10-story. I see a lot of people, obviously more shingles where there's no scaffold, they're just on ropes, probably fixed to the ridge.
In
I'm assuming,
America, it's
yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I'm assuming
Particularly in
because of the
America,
weight of the slate.
it's really uncommon for
Yeah.
roofers to set scaffold in America unless it's a commercial project or like a big new build where they're doing slate roofing.
Yeah.
Those are pretty much the only conditions. And then a lot of times you'll see the stucco guys will set
Okay.
full scaffold.
Yeah.
But it's pretty rare for a retail residential roofing company to pull scaffold, even for a slate job
Oh, really? Okay.
on a small up and over. Yeah, they'll normally just rack it up. They'll put a big board on the eave
Yeah.
and stage it out and rack it up like that. And
Oh, wow. Okay.
lucky they've got fall protection of some kind.
Yeah.
But yeah, I prefer full scaffold, but I do a side at a time. So on this one, it's 4 facets. I'll set up on this side. I'll be there for about 3 to 4 weeks, and then I'll jump
Oh, okay.
to the next
Yeah.
one.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and then the owners had half of the equipment on site already, so I just had to buy extra scaffold to match what they already had. They'd been through
Okay.
the ringer with like this roof was actually in litigation and was halfway complete when they fired the roofer last year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And they started communicating with me early this year to go through their litigation process to get some money back out of that job and then
Right.
get in here.
Okay.
What's the most challenging project you've done over your career?
Absolutely has to be the Scientist Church in Louisville, which is a huge skylight. And then also working in the bush in the Bahamas, like just where they tell you your weight limit on the plane, like you're limited to like 300 pounds in tools on the plane to like get you to the island to work. So this is places where you're going out to do you're doing work in a site where they intend to build up eventually, but essentially there's nothing there. There's no
Wow.
Lowe's to run to. There's no machine shop. There's no supply house down the street. So having to pack everything that you could ever think of before you get dropped off in that location is really, really challenging.
How do you get your material in? Does it come by a container or?
In that job in particular, they brought the copper coils on a boat. There was another crew there that had to build the dock before us. So we were watching them build the dock that was going to receive our materials.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
And they had and this was just for temporary structures. We were putting copper roofs onto like picnic pavilions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is for a resort thing in the Bahamas.
Sure.
They're throwing 3 times the normal per square foot rate for building at construction projects.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions, Andrew?
Yeah, obviously in our email sort of conversations, you were talking about some training that you give to homeowners as well. Can you expand on that a little bit and how that works?
Absolutely. So that's another sort of really key aspect of my program and what I do is we're geared towards education, both of career roofers and homeowners that want to learn and demystify these traditional processes. I've got some key colleagues in this sort of movement. I would call it Wood Window Makeover is one of them. They're located in Florida. Actually, I think they're in Tampa. And he does the same thing. So he goes out and does outreach with homeowners and shows them how to restore their old wood windows, for example. And slate roofing projects are a little more involved than that. So it's not something where you can turn the whole thing over to a homeowner and feel confident that they're going to complete it. But if I'm there surveying the work and they're just helping with labor, they can save a lot of money in the process.
Yeah, sure. So I think one of the ones that we've put on roofmapping.com where you've done the garage install of the reclaimed slate and you did the copper edge around the roof, but then I think you said you gave training for the homeowner to finish off the main roof and he's put the 2019 inscription in the slates, which is
My
pretty cool.
gosh, he's done that whole roof by himself, and he learned some copper folding just by taking apart one of the skylight
Oh,
surrounds
really? Okay.
that I left there for him. I left him an extra one, and I got an email from him one day, and he showed me this perfectly filleted chimney surround that he had built
Yeah.
for his
Oh, wow.
side
Okay.
But yeah, he's done that. I laid the built-in gutters all the way around, and I did his chimneys, rebuilt him,
Okay.
and helped him lay out and put all the chalk lines on, and then left him to go with his
Oh, wow.
slate.
Okay. No, he's
And
done a
then
good job.
he's a physical therapist, occupational therapy type thing when people get injuries. So he's a busy guy, but he pecks at it on the weekends,
Okay. That's cool.
and he's just finished it over 2 years.
Yeah. No, it looks really good.
Yeah.
No, definitely. So, do you cover the whole of America? Will you travel anywhere? I know you said
I would.
Bahamas,
Again, it has to be a location that makes sense.
Okay.
And I don't solicit work if like right now I'm in Indiana. If someone calls me from this region this season and says, "Hey, we're looking at you for next year," I would stay here.
Okay. Yeah.
If someone from California calls me for next season, I might be in California. It just depends on where the interest is.
Right.
But yeah, I'm here at least for this season and next, and then the goal when I get some free time is to start building little brick cottages.
Okay.
Actual whole houses, not just roofing anymore.
Right.
I'd like to get into more traditional house building operations.
Yeah. Because you mentioned before when you were contained in the one area, you sort of ran out of the slate and copper work. Now you've gone further afield. I'm assuming you're not having trouble filling your order books. You're busy all the time.
It's always a little tricky because it's like being a band or a touring comedian or touring artist or anything like that. Like you can only book yourself so far in advance.
Yeah.
And yeah, you do get a little nervous when it gets close to the deadline and you don't have another call booked.
Yeah. Okay. That's pretty cool.
I definitely will take the I'll definitely take the exposure. I really like what you're doing with roof mapping. I've thought for a long time that roofs that are landmarks should be documented almost like other art projects with the person who actually did the work, the supplier. Like you're really getting into like autistic levels of detail that only other roofers will appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's great.
I think someone said on a comment recently that it's a great initiative, but it's a very niche market, and it is. Roofing, I wouldn't say it's a niche market. It's a massive industry, but yeah, to the layman, they say, "What do you enjoy doing?" I'm like, I like roofs. And they're like, "You what?"
Yeah, I think
there's so much to look at.
I think
it's so varied.
At least 15% of the total construction market.
Yeah.
As a whole, it's got to be. I don't actually know. Maybe you guys probably know better than me. Wow. How much, if you were to take the whole, like everything that people can spend on construction, roofing's got to be at least 15-20% of that.
Yeah, it's around 22% of the total.
Okay. So it's a major player in, it's not like light fixtures.
Still important, but yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Anything else you got, Andrew? Specifics?
No, I think that's all. It's been really interesting to talk to Kurtis and hear his story.
Curtis, anything you want to let our viewers know that we didn't ask you before we break?
So I'm going to put in a plug here for Yuri. He's he wrote the sheet metal books and for Stort's Tools, which makes the best old school roofing tools. And they sell all the same stuff that I offer for free at tradbuilding.com.
Oh, well, okay.
Nice. All right. Well, Kurtis, we appreciate you coming on today. And you're definitely a very unique guest that we've had, that we haven't had somebody that does exactly what you do. You're taking it to another level. And actually by you're going back to the way the trade was, traveling around as an artisan.
Did you guys interview Durable yet? John Chan?
Yeah.
Okay. So they gave me my first job offer when I was getting into the trades.
Oh, well, okay.
I did turn them down because it wasn't a great offer. They wanted me to relocate to Columbus, Ohio for $12 an hour. And that was back in 2004. So we can forget that. But yeah, we've had a little friendly rivalry ever since.
Oh, okay.
Contracting in the region. But yeah, great folks. They revived the trade in the 80s. Nothing but respect for the Durable Group. And yeah, actually, I've had a lot of trainees that come from Durable to come they got their appetite wet with slate, and then they wanted to learn the European copper folding. And they come to me from Durable to learn that stuff.
Oh, well,
Nice.
okay.
But I hear they're doing better now. I think they're learning it these days.
That's good. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining, and I want to thank you, Kurtis, for being our guest today. And as always, please check back for the next episode coming up, and everybody have a great day.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.